Have you ever trusted someone completely only to learn they were leading a double life? Have you ever considered what you'd do if the person you built your life with shattered it instantly? This is exactly what happened to me. For years, I believed my marriage was solid, based on love, trust, and devotion. But one day, I learned the truth, and everything changed. I didn't simply confront her. I made a decision that stunned her and effectively cut her out of my life. But before we begin, please make sure to subscribe. Your support inspires me to tell you fresh stories and share experiences like this. Let's get started. I, 33, have married my wife, 30, for 3 years. But we had been dating for even longer before that. I felt like I was on the right track because this woman loved me in ways I had never been loved before, and I never had a problem returning the energy. To me, it was on its way to becoming what my parents had. But I've learned a painful lesson. No matter how much energy someone exudes outwardly, you never know what's happening inside their thoughts or behind the scenes. That isn't good. The two of us met in college. I attended college out of state while she remained in her native state. I enjoyed learning about her youth and adolescence and how she grew up. One anecdote she told me was about her first boyfriend from high school. Let us call that guy Desmond. They had a conventional high school connection. They were passionate about each other, but also naive and dumb. Their romance lasted a year and some change. That was the end of it, she said. She stated that Desmond approached her several times between then and when we met, and while she was courteous, she always declined his advances. She also told me when he would contact her after we started dating. I have always valued the openness. When someone is this upfront, trusting them is much simpler because they aren't hiding anything from you. Now I'm telling you this because it relates to what has permanently wrecked my image of my marriage. My wife, let's call her Bianca for the purpose of this, came home after shopping one day. We talked and ate dinner, and then she stated Desmond had contacted her. She said he was acting needy, but she rebuffed him and reminded him that she was a married lady who had no desire to be with him. That made me proud. We spent a few minutes chatting about him and how ridiculous it is to continue badgering an ex. Then I headed to the kitchen. I was getting myself a cup of tea when I realized she was staring at her phone. She then dropped it on the seat next to her to get a juice bottle from the fridge. This was a period of rapid change. I'd finished making my tea. So I returned to the couch and noticed she had left her phone with the screen on. It was still a message chat. I was almost 90% sure it said Des for the contact, and I could see one heart symbol on her end of the chat. But before I could sit down and take a closer look, it was as if she had made enormous strides and was immediately beside me. Even though she could have sat down first, she swiped her phone from the seat. I spotted her glancing at me from her peripheral vision, but I pretended I didn't see anything and started a random chat. She finally settled down. I am not stupid. Even though I didn't see anything tangible and had no idea what they were talking about, that brief encounter was enough to raise my doubts. I debated whether to address her immediately, but I pretended I didn't notice anything. So I decided to go through with it because it allowed me to examine her phone without her suspicions. If I were to confront her, she could always lie or deny it. And even if she had told the truth, I could have received a mild version. I wanted to know the absolute truth, so I decided to pursue Pi on my own. I had my chance the next morning when she went to take a shower. She left her phone charging, and when I heard the water running, I had to investigate. There was already a message from him that she hadn't read that said, "Good morning." But I didn't let that stop me. I opened the message and began scrolling through the messages. That's when I realized they'd gotten much too cozy with each other. I knew something was wrong because my sense of her relationship with Desmond was that they rarely communicated, and when they did, he was the groveling, pathetic ex, and she was the hard, frigid woman. They were equally friendly with one another. Unfortunately, the talk was far too long for me to complete. And before I knew it, I heard the bathroom's water cease running, so I returned her phone and pretended I hadn't touched it. She noticed nothing until she took up her phone and began working on some of her creative projects. I could not quit stewing on it all day. What I knew was enough for a major fight, but I had a feeling there was more I didn't know. I could only get the whole truth if I listened in on Desmond's full talk. I wanted to learn quickly, but I knew I needed patience. Here's the thing. A part of me assumed she couldn't be doing anything shady because I knew her password, and she knew mine. But that provided me with a distinct advantage. That night as she slept, I went into her Facebook account using my computer and then wiped all the unrecognized sign-in evidence from her inbox. I was in. If she looked at her active sessions, she'd notice that my laptop had access, but I knew she wouldn't. So while she slept, I summarized as much of the talk as possible. There was a lot, and I doubt I'd be able to do it all in one day. However, I came to several conclusions based on what I could read. First and foremost, they had been communicating regularly for several years. It wasn't just him stopping by now and then. Second, they had something going on. They talked affectionately to each other, which was the opposite of what she told me. When I reached high enough, I discovered a few texts implying they had slept together. How many times? I had no idea. Third, I realized I couldn't be with her anymore. I had to finish things as quickly as possible. This is the night after I reviewed their messages. I spent the next day and even tonight delving further into it, capturing the most noteworthy bits in case they were destroyed. I looked up divorce lawyers and made plans to make decisions during the day. I'm just really hurt by this whole situation. Part of me wishes I hadn't discovered this, but a larger part of me cherishes knowing the truth. As I previously stated, I am feeling pretty numb about everything. This woman mostly brings money into the home through her Etsy website. Yes, she does all the housework and enjoys doing arts and crafts while I work, but it's wild that I've been providing such a wonderful living for this woman while she cheats on me with her high school ex. She has been lying to me for years. Anyway, I'll post an update as soon as I can. I will inform you all that I have divorced her. I'd love to find a unique form of revenge to add to that, such as sleeping with her sister or something. But I'm being unreasonable. After looking through all of their texts, I discovered that they slept together several times and that this had been going on for years, even before we married. So the entire time she talked about Desmond, it appeared that the goal was to get me off the track. It certainly worked, but it's over now, and she has no idea. Now I want to hit her. Maybe I'm a nasty person, or I'm pleased to see someone get served by karma, but I think I've had much too much fun, and I finally feel like things are going my way while they're going poorly for her. I will do my best to recall everything that has occurred. The first thing I did was find the divorce lawyer I wanted to work with, and after a lengthy conversation, I paid his retainer and urged him to get started on the paperwork. One factor that influenced my decision was finding someone willing to go to any length to preserve my assets. I work in the IT field and earn a lot. That's why I didn't worry that Bianca didn't work. I was pleased to support her and see her happy. But as soon as I realized things were about to fall apart, I knew I needed to find someone to preserve my wealth, so I decided on a specific lawyer. When the divorce papers were ready and she had left the house for a while, I began packing. It took me a few days to pack everything I needed without her knowing, but once I did, I left the house and traveled to a neighboring city where I had already reserved a hotel room. When she messaged me and said, "Where are you?" I granted my lawyer permission to send the process server to the house. Yes, I realize it was stupid of me to leave an emotionally unstable woman alone in the house, but it was the easiest way out for me, and I had my most valuable possessions with me. Someone stopped by the house and handed me divorce papers. This must be some prank, right? I still didn't respond, so she started calling me repeatedly, but I didn't answer any calls. She started getting emotional in my texts, urging me to pick up, and then she screamed, "What was I doing wrong?" That's when I just answered, "Desmond," and blocked her on every platform I could think of her using to contact me. When I received a call from an unknown number, I did not respond because it appeared to be her. I planned to utilize my lawyer as a proxy for almost everything. I didn't need to communicate with her. She could contact him if she had issues signing the paperwork. It took about a month for her to sign it, but that mattered to me. It was exactly the day after signing the paperwork that I chose to answer one of those mysterious calls, and to no one's surprise, it was from her. There was a lot of silence on the phone between us before she said hi. I asked, "What do you want?" and then became silent again. After approximately a minute of stillness, she asked, "Where are you?" I told her I would never tell her, so she shouldn't bother. At that point, she began crying. Following her tears, she stated, "I'm not doing well at all." I didn't respond since I knew she wouldn't be doing well, and it didn't make me feel sympathy. It only made me happier because I knew everything was going my way. That's when the lady I referred to as my wife, who had been cheating on me for years with her high school ex-boyfriend, informed me that money was tight. She was struggling and she needed my help to get through the month. I contemplated it for a moment because I don't want her to die, but I do want her to suffer. I no longer cared about her, so I said, "F her. She has family she can turn to if the situation turns critical." I just hung up the telephone. After that, she tried to call back 8 times, but I let it ring repeatedly. My lawyer then called me approximately a week later. He appeared amused that Bianca had contacted him to tell him she was broke and had no food. She tried to appeal to my emotions, but it didn't work. Her sister lives 40 minutes away. If things were so awful, she'd go to her sister's house, but she didn't want anyone to know what was going on in her life. They will find out sooner or later. The whole affair is a huge mess for her, but I can't say I dislike it. It feels like a fraction of the pain that I need her to experience. She was accustomed to a privileged life and took it for granted in the worst way. She's about to find out what life is like after she set fire to our marriage. We haven't even started the divorce proceedings yet, and things are already going poorly for her. This tale has finally come to an end. I hope. The divorce was complete, and everything went precisely as I had planned. Honestly, it couldn't have gone any better for me. So, let me quickly give you the lowdown. My lawyers collected the signed papers. It was time to start. The phase in which we could have reached an agreement did not go well. She demanded 50% of whatever was in my bank account. That wasn't surprising given that she has nothing to her name. I wasn't going to let it happen. Her lawyer even attempted to negotiate 25% of my assets, but I refused because my lawyer assured me that he'd be able to get me out with less or nothing at all, though he recognized that the latter would be difficult. We eventually had to go before a court, and with my evidence of her cheating and lying to me for years on end, as well as doing nothing to contribute significantly to the household's income, even though we had no children, things swung in my favor. She was going to get the house, and I was supposed to pay the mortgage for the next 2 years to allow her time to get on her feet, but she flatly refused. I believe she was afraid of the bills that would eventually be hers. So, we agreed with the judge to sell the house, pay off the mortgage, and split the remaining funds 50-50. That's all she'd receive. I believe she was so broke that she jumped on it immediately. The good news was that the money left over after paying the mortgage wasn't particularly substantial, at most, for 2 years. The truth is, I know she has been spending wildly. Her sister contacted me, begging me to talk some sense into Bianca, but I declined. She still doesn't know where I live because the few times we saw each other after I disappeared were for divorce-related reasons. She hasn't found work and is spending the money she was given. Perhaps she is spending some of it with Desmond. If she is, that is great for him. He should appreciate it while it lasts. I never imagined I'd be the type of person who is happy while Bianca's life breaks apart, since I once loved her so much. But she betrayed me at the deepest level. So I'm relieved things are as awful as possible for her. She deserved worse, and I'm glad she got what she got. Is there any moral to the story? I do not know. In the end, I could have told the woman to block Desmond. She had no reason not to. If she had declined, that would have raised a red flag. So the message is this: your woman should always be willing to cut off men who are nothing more than a possible threat to her marriage or relationship. If she can't do that, you should consider how essential you are to her. That's all for today's video. I hope you liked the narrative and found it as satisfying as I did. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up. It greatly helps the channel. Don't forget to subscribe and enable notifications to ensure you never miss an update or similar material. Please share your thoughts in the comments below. Do you believe justice was served? I'd love to hear your opinion. Thank you for viewing and see you in the next one. Take care.